Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
I want to make that weird pie, but I don't think I'm going to force it on everybody at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, we almost never eat pie while we're together anyway.
Yeah. Anne seemed interested, and I thought this might be one of the ones that one of the journeys I have to go on with Anne, because you were tepid.
Yeah, I was very tepid.
About the strawberry pretzel pie.
Sounds a little bizarre.
It's one of the ones that I think would work. Will was down, although he's frequently down with me for like garbage food ventures.
Mm-hmm.
But it was it was from the 70s dinner party account, but it was like an article that somebody wrote about one of their Thanksgiving traditions and how they were standing by it, damn it.
Oh,
and
okay.
I guess it's a slightly polarizing thing where some people, I think it's like pineapple on pizza. I think some people are really into it, but that's like 40% of the population.
Okay, I get it. I mean, I told you, you were like, I want to tell you about this pie, but I don't think you'll be into it. And I was like, I'm the one who ate the banana and peanut and mustard salad. I was like, that my Aunt Susan made. It's like a Southern delicacy. And it was pretty good, actually. And I was like, I'll try whatever you make, but I don't love cream cheesy things.
It was like cream cheese and Jell-O and whipped cream.
Yeah, that's a lot of like
consistencies.
A lot of consistencies going into the same thing.
It's like a cheesecake, but instead of graham cracker, it's like a pretzel crust. And I think the sweet and salty was really intriguing. And I think the strawberry ties it all together. Like if it was something like apricot, I might be like, no. But I think strawberry is pedestrian, but like it's strong enough, but like it can spread itself thin. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I get it.
Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show.
I'm so excited about it.
Well, I was like, I've gotten into such a routine that I was like, if we're going to continue to do it live, I ought to vary it up. That one woman that does, it's like A-Jail or something, she does the music reviews on YouTube, and she's really interesting, and she's also a lot sometimes. But she does it different every time to the point where now it's kind of a string of gibberish.
Oh, that's fun.
She's like,
is it sort of like, is it sort of like, oh shoot, what was it from The Soup? It's reality show clip time.
Yeah. As you were saying it, it came screaming back to me. It's reality show clip time. Then he whispered it a few times. Oh my God, let's just go watch The Soup. I make you do that every so often. I have a back catalog of like 6 years of The Soup on my iTunes. So, anyways, okay, we're going to continue our tradition of watching Muppet movies for Thanksgiving episodes. And
Yay!
I was very excited for this one because it's the Great Muppet Caper.
Uh-huh.
It was honestly never my favorite when I was a kid, but I think as I've gotten older, it's still not my favorite, but the things that make me laugh in it still make me genuinely laugh.
Yeah, it was funny. And it was also, there were some, like, pretty adult moments.
Yeah. I've wanted to watch this all year, because I got it on Vudu, because before that I had it on an old DVD that fell in a puddle or something.
Okay.
And so I got it on Vudu last year, and we watched it, because we're
sorry, I just realized that you said it fell in a puddle.
I don't know. You know how those like DVDs from before the 2005? It's like, I mean, maybe. Let's put it in and cross our fingers.
Yeah. I have a couple of those.
Yeah. And so we're still introducing my brother's girlfriend to the Muppet catalog. She's seen all the new stuff, but we're going back and doing like the backlog. And I love you guys for doing this stuff with us, because it's a very specific thing. The worst part about the Muppets is they are in it's a blessing and a curse, because it also works in their favor, but they're in a perpetual state of underdog. Wouldn't you agree?
100%.
And it's like, for every win, they have like 3 fumbles.
Yeah.
And I've always loved them, and I've always wanted them to be more successful than they are. And we've discussed that a lot on this podcast as a whole, about desiring things to be more successful because you want good things. You want it, success for things that you like.
Right.
But also that can change something. So,
well, okay, here's what I have to argue against that for the Muppets specifically, which is that they are everywhere. They're omnipresent, even when they are not having movies and shows on TV. And I'll say the reason, and it is Sesame Street.
Okay.
So, like, there are Muppets everywhere all the time. Everyone knows what a Muppet is, even if they're not a fan of Muppets. And so I think the Muppets have sort of transcended success or failure.
It's kind of like they're like an institution at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, while I understand that you want more people to feel about the Muppets the way that you feel about the Muppets, I think you can't argue their success or failure. I think they are successful just in the fact that they are still around, and it's been like going on 50 years.
And if history is any indication, we get 2 movies and a TV show per decade. So it's like, and there's not a ton, well, there's some outright failures, but it's like, it's highs and lows and ups and downs. And so, they've had a few more flops than they have had successes, but I understand what you're saying, because I sort of say it's kind of like Saturday Night Live, where someone will be like,
also, yes,
this season sucks, and people, like, I'll actually see people joke about canceling it. I'm like, as if, like,
right?
As if
what are we gonna do on Saturday nights?
Yeah, as if that's gonna happen. Like, something would have to fundamentally tank in the show for it to be just quote unquote canceled,
Right.
At the very least, they would end it. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. I think it wouldn't get canceled. They would just be like, 2 more seasons and then you're out.
Yeah. The Muppets they're in a strange place now, because they've had a tango with the Disney company for a while, and Disney has owned them, I want to say, for years. More than 10, I think.
Well, the last show was on ABC, so they've owned them at least, that was like 4 years ago.
Well, I think it's been more than 10. It's been, because they've been in the Disney park, which, frankly, their presence in MGM, now Hollywood Studios, was always supposed to be more. And when Jim Henson died, the deal fell through and never fully recovered.
Gotcha.
But they are the most intertwined with Disney, I would say, now. And unfortunately, there is currently no plan to do anything with them for Disney Plus still.
Which I think is wrong.
Well, if you want to find the right thing, then by all means, find the right thing.
Well, yeah, please take your time if that's what you're doing. If you're taking your time,
because I think something's coming. But there have been 2 projects greenlit and canceled, and then possibly a third in limbo within a year span for Disney Plus. And so that's kind of like, come on, people. I mean, they are niche, but they're not that niche.
Yeah, I agree.
And we are the most frustrated, and we will probably cover the Muppet reboot from 2015, because they took their time figuring out what to do with that show, and they even brought in a new showrunner, and it got good. Like, it got actually legitimately good. And then 3 episodes later, they were just canceled. And so it was kind of like, ugh.
No, I know. It's super frustrating.
That does bring us to the Great Muppet Caper. It came out in 1981, I think.
Yes.
And it was the second movie after 78. I didn't do as good a research as I thought I did. 78, 70. It was after the Muppet movie. And it had a slightly bigger budget. It had a higher concept, which maybe that's one of the problems.
It's a way higher concept, because in addition to being like a caper movie, it is also like they're filming a caper movie. Because they like, it's not even that they break the fourth wall, but it's like they don't break the fourth wall with the audience, but they break it with each other.
I remember it confusing me as a child because I understood the concept of breaking the fourth wall, but because, as you mentioned, they only do it with each other, I sort of wondered if it was this weird mass delusion they were all under.
Okay.
Because we never see a cameraman. Like, at no point does the camera turn around and we see Video Village.
Right.
Which is part of the charm, in my opinion. That's why...
No, of course, it was really funny, but it is the type of thing where, like, we've talked about before how the Muppets are, like, sort of for kids. Mm-hmm. In a way that, like, they are very helpful in kids, like, recognizing their emotions
Themes
and stuff.
And yeah.
But that, I think, is too advanced for kids. Like, that stuff's all for the adults, and so I think it might be off-putting for certain kids because they're gonna feel like they are missing out on something. Mm-hmm. Because they're not gonna understand relatively big chunks of the movie.
Because the weirdest one is when when Piggy has the breakdown in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And Kermit's like, "You're overacting. You need to calm down."
Yeah, that was hilarious. But it also I was like, that I'm surprised that this like made it through because it's so strange. And tonally, it's a tonal shift that's really like a lot.
You said the thing. Okay. Because I grew up with this, and it is so for me, to an extent, I'm not capable of looking at it objectively.
Okay.
And when I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score, it has the 70s, so decent, but the consensus was like tonally all over the place. And I was sort of like, how? But
no, it really
was one of the first words you said, so.
Yeah, so because there was all of that stuff, and then a couple of times they had really adult conversations with each other. And now I can't remember the context of them, but then also fucking Charles Grodin's character was like in love with Miss Piggy. Oh. In like a real way, apparently.
Okay. So here's one of my favorite aspects.
For sure. It was so fun.
True to form, we dove in a way that like all of my notes are out the window all of a sudden because we got to my notes. But okay, whatever he's doing in this movie is so much, and it's so much more than any other human in the movie.
Yeah.
And because I remember thinking as a child he was drunk the entire time. Which is, I think, a pretty astute observation for a child.
It's like not 100% no, Tiny Will, but
he's doing this really weird thing, and he is just so in love with Miss Piggy.
Yeah, in
such a funny, weird way, like in a way that almost breaks the movie. Because I'm trying to recall it. I mean, of course, you know. I think adults, like humans, flirt with Piggy all the time, but
sure,
it was strange in this movie.
I think the reason that it was more strange is because the implication is that it's not just the character in love with Miss Piggy, but Charles Grodin is in love with actress Miss Piggy. And I find that hysterically funny because it's such an extra layer that, again, kids won't notice. But as an adult, I just was like,
what?
Why are both levels of this character in love with Miss Piggy? It's hilarious.
This is one of my favorite uses of Miss Piggy because she's used differently here. It's a more complicated depiction of her, and it's slightly unconventional because she's an aspiring model, and even when it all kind of comes out, she's quite pathetic.
Yeah.
And typically, Piggy is such a head honcho. Like, typically, she's such a ball buster. Like, when we meet her in the 2011 Muppets, she's like the editor of French Vogue.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think the instinct going into this now, or what people know about her, would be to cast her as Lady Holiday. But having, first of all, Diana Rigg as Lady Holiday, which is...
Is that who she was?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was like, that's only wonderful to me through hindsight, because it's Lady Olenna Tyrell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's in a different movie.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is like this. I mean, I can only imagine how many drugs like Jim Henson and Frank Oz were on when they were in England writing these movies.
And this is the only movie that Henson directed himself.
Which also answers a lot of questions.
Okay.
But it's so fascinating to me because you're right. It's like the other ones have felt all a lot more constrained in a way. And this one really, it was like all of the humans were acting completely differently. There was that hilarious through line about how Fozzie and Kermit were identical twins.
Mhm.
And that hellish picture of their father. I don't want to look at that ever again in my life. That was horrible. It was just like a green Fozzie bear.
You audibly gasped with frog eyes.
Yeah, it was bad.
And he had like the neck like rough.
Uh-huh.
And you audibly gasped, "Oh my God," when they showed it because, okay, so we just watched this on a whim. We're recording it way early. And you were kind of homesick a little bit. You don't really feel good. And
Yeah.
I just put it on.
I was
And
homesick. I'm not homesick.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You didn't space it quite right. And I was like, I don't really get homesick. I was at home early. Sick.
Yeah. And so you were kind of just laying on the couch and I put it on. And there was a lot of like, and just sort of like brusque exhales through your nose. And then I think you said like 15 times, "It's very silly."
It's so silly.
And you use silly in a slightly better way. I was going to say use silly kind of like I use amusing. Because when I say amusing...
it's not pejorative.
Yeah.
I think silly things are great.
But when I say amusing, sometimes I mean it backhanded. And when you say it, it's very sort of like, you're right. It is a little dismissive.
I definitely don't mean it that way because I think silly things are great. And I think the silliness of the Muppets is their greatest joy.
Yeah. I could just tell you were having a good time.
Yeah.
But you were just sort of in this catatonic, like...
I don't feel very good today.
And meanwhile, like, I kind of was cracking up at several things, because even though I said I watched this last year, I was cooking, like, Thanksgiving food last year when we watched it. And so before that, it was over a decade. Like, it was years before I watched this movie.
This is the first time I've ever seen it, so...
Yeah, and so many things just completely tickled me. Like, when they put on their disguises, and it's just all of the Muppets wearing the goggles with the big nose, whatever those are called.
And the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was so funny. Because they very much, it's a fine line. And I guess this is where the Jim Henson being so involved in this one is there.
Mm-hmm.
Because they very much have they think they're people quality.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And like you can't quite tell where the line between animal and human is.
Well, because that was the other thing that I liked so much was with John Cleese and his wife.
Okay.
What?
Go ahead and say I could. Right, that is my favorite bit of the whole movie.
Okay,
but
it's hilarious because he and his wife are having a very upper crusty British dinner.
It's Neville and Dorcas, and it's John Cleese and I'm trying to remember her name. They were on Fawlty Towers
from
together.
Fawlty Towers, yeah.
Joan Sanderson.
So they're having this very upper crusty British dinner, and they're just like, she won't stop talking about the weather, and he just is like...
So the Wikipedia says Dorcas, Neville's apathetic and dull-mannered wife.
yeah, correct. Because she won't stop talking about the weather, and then all of a sudden he just is like, "Oh," and she's like, "What is it?" And he says, "There's a pig climbing on the outside of the house."
The weather. Awfully disappointing today.
Is it?
Yes. Yes, I know what you mean.
It was rather disappointing yesterday. And the day before. What is it, Neville?
Pig. Climbing up the outside of the house.
The day before that was awfully disappointing, too.
Then that's it. And then they go back to talking about the weather for like 10 minutes. And then he's like, "The pig's inside." And then it's just like not totally even keeled. Nobody's doing anything about it. And then by the end of the scene,
like a minute later, she'd be like, "Did you say there was a pig climbing up?" And he's everything she says to him, he responds to it with kind of like a, "What? Oh,
yeah.
Yes, I suppose I did."
Yeah. And so by by the end of the scene, Piggy and Kermit are in this house because she's trying to pretend she lives there because he thinks that she's
17 Highbrow Street.
Yeah, because he thinks that she's Lady what
Holiday.
is it? Yeah.
Holiday.
And so they like are stuck in the closet and John Cleese comes to open the door and just is like, "Can I help you?" And she treats him like a butler and he just goes with it. It's so silly.
And then Dorcas comes up and is like, "What are you doing staring in the closet?" And he's like, "Do you remember the pig that was the pig from earlier?" And she's like, "The one that was climbing up the side of the house?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "That very one. She was in here with a lizard."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Well, what did they want?" And he was like, "They wanted
Dinner recommendations.
And he told them
I sent them to the Dubonic Club.
And she goes, "Well, that's more of a supper club than a dinner club." And
Yeah.
he's like, "I tried to tell them that." But
It's just
it was, and
the
especially
height of comedy.
when she's like, "Am I boring you?" And he's like, "Huh? Oh, no." And he's like, "I suppose if I was bored, I would go out and buy something." And she's like, "Well, what would you buy?" And he's like, "Cheese, quail egg, maybe? Perhaps some jam?" And she's like, "I would like to go select the jam with you." And he's like, "Well, I don't think it requires two of us." And she's like, "Well, I haven't left the house in 12 years.
Yeah. It's just I
was rolling.
That part of the movie, I can't decide if that was a Jim Henson thing or if that
John
was like
Cleese.
a John Cleese Monty Python thing. Because it felt like a discarded Monty Python skit.
It is so, because it's two things are happening. They are having, it's like the opposite ends of the spectrum of comedy.
Yeah.
Because it's like they're having the driest, most ironic, like, and it's very British, stuffy British thing. And then Miss Piggy is doing like old-fashioned slap, like like breaking lamps, and I mean her crawling on her hands and knees. There were several things in this movie, and I saw that in a couple of the reviews where it was like, it's like the puppeteers were intentionally trying to give themselves difficult things.
Yeah.
Like, because there's the usage of like life-sized humans in puppet costumes for a couple scenes.
Bizarre.
It's really upsetting in a way.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good because Miss Piggy is like not the right size.
Their proportions are wrong.
Yeah.
Like, so I never do that again. But yeah, that whole 17 Highbrow Street is...
Well, okay, because I didn't even get to my favorite part, which is that Piggy is walking around in the house while this this couple is still having this weird conversation. And then Kermit rings the doorbell, and then they start having this conversation about who should get the doorbell. Well, all the pets are dead, and the butler was dismissed.
The kids are gone, and the pets are dead, and the butler
was dismissed. And so finally Piggy just goes, "I'll get it!" And just this like intruder in their house going to answer the door to let someone else in. He's
like,
absurd.
"Did you say the kids are dead?" And she's like, "No, the pets are dead."
It was ridiculous. It was really one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. So I didn't fully finish my talking point on Miss Piggy, but that is fine because it goes well into the next talking point, which was, I guess, did you have anything to add to that about how she's positioned slightly different in this movie as being a little bit, but like I said, pathetic. I mean, she's very much pretending.
I didn't have anything to add, but I did find it interesting as well. I think too often... And it's not even bad because it is just sort of her character, but I think she's such a ball buster all the time that it was like a fun, different feel to have Piggy be kind of vulnerable.
Well, and another thing with Muppets is it's like, of course you can just go see this movie, but a lot of it does sort of hinge on you being a tried and true fan.
Right.
Because like, you're watching them pretend this story. And so it's like the dynamics of 5 years of their relationship, from the Muppet Show is also here. Because this is one of several courtships they do. And it's like each movie, they have to reinvent a way for them to, like, they have a meet cute and they fall in love and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the second part I was going to get to, is because it is almost always her falling in love with him. And it is always love at first sight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really have anything profound to say about that other than I just think it is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say you're a casual fan, if anything, in between casual and big fan.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like, I think you're becoming more of a fan as you're, like, getting more immersed into it.
Yeah, the problem is I just had never seen these movies before, so I didn't have a reference point.
How do you feel about Kermit and Piggy? I mean,
in general?
Like, do you feel they're a love for the ages? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think that is? I mean, is it because we're raised with it in the zeitgeist? Like you were saying, they're kind of an omnipresence?
Well, not really, actually. I mean, I think that I think it's just nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just cute. I think how they do kind of go back and forth between, I mean, usually, you're right, it is usually Piggy who's like falling in love at first sight, but they do kind of go back and forth on who is more invested in the relationship. And it is, I mean, not in a jokey way. It is a very like Sam and Diane from Cheers kind of relationship where they're like together and then they're not. And then you don't know if it's going to go okay or not. It's like,
and we explore their relationship in very hefty ways, in particular in the 2011 Muppet movie.
Yeah.
That goes to therapy places.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I definitely think Love for the Ages because just the mere fact that I think that you asked that question says yes, because you don't ask that question seriously if they're not contenders.
True, yeah, very, very much so. But
like, I definitely think yes. Like I said, Sam and Diane. I think you put it up there with that. You put it up there with Casablanca. It's also very aesthetically similar because Kermit always has that little trench coat and his hat, and Piggy's always in a dress, and so it's like, yeah, it's very like old school Hollywood romance, like like
and
film noir
is
romance.
Such a dynamic too, with her being, in every way bigger than him. And
well, she's borderline a femme fatale.
Yeah. And yeah. Because we
but
get
all
that
the time.
Yeah, we get that in this movie. We get the angry eyes, the karate chops again. I mean, that's a staple of the Muppets. But and that's why I think that scene in the middle where she has the little existential breakdown is so funny, because that's where you can see the actors, Kermit and Piggy, breaking the character, like come out of character.
Which is such a cool and funny thing to do.
For a puppet?
Yeah, it just was so out of nowhere that because at the beginning, I mean, I should have guessed, because at the beginning, Fozzie and Gonzo were like, Kermit, how long did the opening credits go for? And they're just like asking questions about it. And so it's like, it was clear that they were like making a movie in the movie, but it's the opening
number is we're make a movie.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be terrific, starring everybody. Yeah.
But yeah, it was very interesting.
And that's another thing that I think it's indistinguishable is the Muppets are also show business, and in particular old Hollywood. And I think that's one of the ways how they've managed to eke by is because there will always be nostalgia for show business and old Hollywood.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an essential element to their formula, but it is slightly on the back burner. Do you know what I mean? Like, so something like this, like the Great Muppet Caper, is a little bit of a sell. Because it performed moderately. Everybody was expecting it to be a huge hit, and it was like just okay. And some people even said that putting the word caper in the title was a bad idea because it like confused people.
I disagree, especially because I was reading the trivia, and the initial title was Muppet Mania, and Jim Henson was like, "That's terrible." So they like opened it up for a contest, and the closest one to win was like the Muppet Capade or something like that. And so they just were, I think that's when he was like, the Great Muppet Caper, got it. I think it's great. My only issue is that they are not the ones doing a caper.
Sure.
Like the jewel theft is not, the Muppets are not.
I mean, I think for their second movie,
jewels.
I don't think they need to be the bad guys.
Well, I wasn't even suggesting bad guys, but it's like they are not doing a caper.
They're foiling.
They're exactly. So I get it, but it's not a Muppet Caper. It's a caper with Muppets.
Well, it's like the Great Muppet Caper movie.
Well, all right.
You mentioned it earlier, and there's nothing to mine there. Really nothing. But the joke about them being identical twins, like even as a kid, I remember waiting for some form of payoff that never comes. It's like, that's the joke. You either think it's funny or it's not.
Well, it goes a couple layers though, because later Kermit is sitting on the frog or on the bench alone, and a woman walks by with her husband or her dad or something, and is like, "Is that a bear?"
Look,
and he goes,
Dad,
"Of course
there's a
not."
bear.
Yeah, of course not. That's a frog. Bears wear hats. And I just was like, "What the fuck?"
That is some out there. That's a gamble,
Yeah.
I feel like.
That's like a risky joke. And I think it pays off for the people it needs to pay off for.
And the bum on the park bench, that I felt like that almost broke you.
Which?
The bum on the park bench.
What about it?
When he sits down with Kermit and he's like, I know what your story is.
Oh, yes. Jesus Christ. Because isn't that Columbo?
Yeah.
I've been there, my friend. I've been there and back. You know, I see the way you're sitting here, and I see the way you got your hand around that little shoe, and that's all I need. I know your whole story.
Huh? You do?
Absolutely. I know exactly what happened to you.
What?
Well, I'll tell you, friend, what happened was you and your brother-in-law, Bernie, you cashed in your stock certificates and your insurance policy, and you went out and bought a dry cleaning establishment.
Huh?
Now another place opens up down the street, and it's charging less. And they're getting the stuff out faster because they got more help. It's not your fault, right? All right, so Bernie comes to you. He says, I want you to buy me out. He says he's fed up. Well, your kids are growing up. You never see them. And all of a sudden, they're turning into juvenile delinquents, and your wife is saying to you, listen, you care more about this lousy business than you care about me. And the equipment breaks down, and your sister moves in with you because that jerk Bernie, he went and joined the circus. Well, you had it up to here, right? You didn't know what to do. So what did you do? You did the only thing you could do.
Yeah?
You dumped the business for a soul. And who did you sell it to?
Who?
You sold it to that jerk down the street, that slob that had been burying you for a year. Then you took whatever money you had left, and you sunk it into the glass slipper business. That's your story, my friend.
I was like, he goes through this whole thing about why Kermit is
Laundromats?
sitting there with a glass slipper, and he goes through this whole thing about your pal Bernie and you opened a dry cleaners, but another one opened right down the street, and it keeps going on and on and on. So he goes, and then you sold your dry cleaning business to the guy down the street, and you put all your money into the glass slipper business. And Kermit just is like, I've never heard somebody say so many wrong things. And I just like, it's so good.
It was because you were like, what? Because it keeps going.
It goes so long.
I have more notes that I wanted to touch on. I don't really have things connecting them. So I'm just going to start spouting non sequiturs and stuff. But
Sure.
I do like the musical numbers. Like two of them. Miss Piggy has two different like Busby Berkeley musical numbers.
Yeah.
In this.
The synchronized swimming one was excellent. It was very impressive. I'm being so serious.
No, but there's a part of me I feel kind of like I feel very like high on my own, like because I'm like this is so funny, and I feel like so many people don't get it, but because she's a runway model in the scene, so why it's synchronized swimming I don't know. And I remember watching this at the age of like 9 and thinking that was the height of fashion.
Yeah,
all those like all the silk chiffon and all the florals and stuff.
I mean, a lot of it's coming back in. So.
Yeah, true. But and even by the end, when they're both singing, when Charles Grodin and Kermit the Frog are singing,
yeah,
and he's going so hard. And then later, after he's framed her, and she's so mad, and she's like, you can't even sing, you had to be dubbed in the musical number.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, man. did want to talk about the Happiness Hotel. I always loved the Happiness Hotel in concept, and even just because it's sort of like the Muppet Theater just transplanted to England and plopped down. And also, I don't think it's there anymore. And I don't know if you ever saw it in its splendor, but the gift shop outside of the Muppet movie 3D in Hollywood Studios is the Happiness Hotel.
Oh.
Like, a lot. Like, painstaking detail, the Happiness Hotel.
Okay.
And and that's why I said I don't remember if it ever been, if you ever saw it in its glory, because I think it went through several renovations.
Gotcha.
But there used to be rats along the top in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like the little rat bellhops and stuff. And it was just a fun piece of trivia. I always liked both of Janice bits. The one where she's just tanning.
Yeah.
In the front after Beauregard crashes through in his taxi. And the Swedish chef comes out with the like spaghetti all mixed in with the steering wheel. And he's like, looks like it's steering wheel spaghetti for dinner. And she just goes, again?
I do like Janice. I have a lot of fun with Janice.
Well, I know she's personal to you because of that picture. But,
yeah.
And then the other time is when they're all talking over each other and Fozzie pulls the quiet. And you hear going, and I said, Mom, if I want to move to the beach and walk around naked, I'll do it.
See, look, Mother, it's my life, okay? So if I want to live on a beach and walk around naked... Oh.
And it's like, that's just the end of who knows who she's talking to, but she's chronicling this fight with her mother about being a beatnik. And she has a couple of sex jokes in this one, I feel like.
Janice gets around.
Yeah, they're subtle, but we didn't really talk about the plot. It doesn't matter. And actually, the Rotten Tomatoes called it convoluted, which I guess it's a little...
I mean, it's not that convoluted.
Maybe they were more referencing the breaking the fourth wall, like the coming in and out of the movie.
Maybe, because really all it is that they're planning a heist and the Muppets inadvertently end up there to stop it.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you know it's happening from the beginning. And that's something that I pondered watching it now as an adult, is I wonder how the movie would have been if it weren't telegraphed from the very beginning. You know, like, we literally see every we see every move.
Right.
And the Muppets are the ones trying to figure out what's happening. And so there's a part of me that wonders what would happen if we were in on it with them. Like, we didn't see these things happening.
Sure.
But I think that stuff is what does make it accessible to kids. Because I think if it were a proper caper, like mystery, I think the kids might tap out. That's like several levels of confusion. Yeah, as funny as I think it is, it does run the risk of getting boring at a handful of times. Mm-hmm. And they're a big group in this one. I mean, there's always a big group of Muppets, but the whole family thing is... Because I was going to say, the Muppets always focus on really lofty themes. Because, like, this one tackles, like... We already talked about Piggy and her, like, issues, but it's like... There's, like, this weird through line of codependency. Yeah. Because, like, Fozzie couldn't handle Kermit doing anything without him, up to and including a romantic, like... the date. And that's something that, again, that goes through into the 2011 Muppet movie, and they handle really well, too. Yeah. And I don't have any grand conclusion to state, but I do appreciate that... they do it, and that there somebody was exploring some of these themes and in a, you know, child and family friendly. Yeah, I agree. Element. So that does bring us, you know, towards the end. Did you have any other things that you wanted to? No, I just am glad I'm finally watching all these movies because they're silly in the best way, and they're fun and they're breezy. And do you think they have a rewatchability factor? Like, obviously not to immediately, to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to ever be the type of person who's just sitting around and goes, do you know what I really want to watch is Muppets? But I do... that like? Yeah, well, I do enjoy it every time we sit down and do it. It's just never my first instinct. But yeah, I mean, I think, especially if it strikes the right chord with you, it's absolutely rewatchable. Because some of it, like, for me, I was laughing at this in ways I hadn't laughed at it, you know, since I was a child. Right. Like, it was striking me very funny in a sincere way. Like when the dogs were chasing them on the castle grounds and they all had to shimmy up the drain pipe.
Yeah.
That was so funny to me out of nowhere. And it's like, because again, there's several layers, because on top of that, it's like I'm watching it with the knowledge that these are puppets being animated. And so it like, part of me is trying to figure out what they're doing. Because the bicycle scene, I swear to God, I have no idea how they do that.
So I can tell you.
Well, I remember reading, is it the strings?
So the bike riding sequence was accomplished by using a combination of radio-controlled bikes, marionette rigging, and in some cases attaching several bikes together with rods so they could stand upright on their own. The end of the bicycle scene, where all the Muppets are shown riding together, was done by putting all of the Muppet characters onto their bikes, hooking them together, and pulling them. Brian Henson, on an oversized tricycle, was amongst those who pulled the bikes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. When I was watching it, it was movie magic. Like,
yeah.
Because, I mean, when Kermit's stuck on the branch and Piggy swirls around, her bike even leans the right way. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I like this one. I'm gonna put up a fight for this one. I think, because by a lot of people, it is regarded as sort of the least of them. And
yeah, but, I mean, that's like saying that about so many things. The least of it is still good.
Better than the best of another. So, and I stand by my Thanksgiving, my holiday assessment. I think that there's a holiday quality to the Muppets. It's family stuff. So
absolutely.
Well, you did ask in the very beginning, and I was waiting. I wrote it down. I was waiting to see if you were going to say something, but you literally just said, "Why is it always Gonzo?" Yeah,
it's fine.
Is he just not your favorite? And
He's not really my favorite, and I didn't realize how big a role he played in the movies.
Mm-hmm. He's the third, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
His third chair, quote unquote.
Because again, still my like touchstone for Muppets is Sesame Street. And he's very tertiary on Sesame Street. And so I understand that Kermit and Piggy are like the biggest ones, but it's often Kermit, Fozzie, and Gonzo. And that's not 100% my bag. Fozzie, I think, is good in small doses, and I think the same about Gonzo, but I could watch Kermit do anything. I love Kermit.
Yeah, he's also very, and I mean this in a plain, like, or in a nice way, but he's rather plain. He's rather straightforward. Like, there's not a gimmick to Kermit in the way that there's a gimmick. Because I think Gonzo's particularly funny in this one, how he has, like, a weird death wish.
Yeah.
Like, he several times is recommending they try the option that would lead to instant death.
Yeah.
And the chicken thing also, Camilla's not in this one. I don't recall. Was she?
I didn't see her.
But there are chickens in this one, which is so strange. I'm curious if we're gonna watch Muppets from Space. I feel like we would have to. It's one of the theatrical releases.
Yeah.
It's his origin story.
Gonzo?
Yeah, it's like all about him.
Okay.
And it is kind of a redheaded stepchild of the Muppet movies, but I haven't seen it since I was like 14 or 15, so I would be excited to see it again. But that would be, that's like the 5th or 6th movie.
That's fine, yeah.
So.
All right, well, we hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving 3 weeks from now. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching, Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. We are also on Facebook and Tumblr, So I'm Watching This Show. You gonna try to put anything on the playlist?
I'll put some of the numbers.
Some of the numbers on there?
We didn't really talk about them because I was going to say we can put little samples in the episode, but I only really referenced one of them, so...
And then, other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. And that's it for us. Bye!
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Hey, a movie! Yeah, we're gonna be a movie!
Starring everybody
and me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that is for us to have.